As the last moments of Yom Kippur begin to pass, as the light begins to fade, as the day turns, as this unique and never to be repeated Yom Kippur comes to an end, I'm reminded of the words of Abraham Joshua Heschel, 20th century rabbi and inspiring teacher of mine, who said that our greatest problem is not how to continue. Our greatest problem is how to return. And so it is that every year we return to the rituals and the liturgy of our festival cycle. But it's not a circle, it's a cycle or a spiral. Always, please God, upwards. I have a custom before Yom Kippur every year, since I've been living in Cape Town the last 14 years, to go down the morning before the Erev Yom Kippur service, down to the beach, and to have a mikveh in the ocean. It's usually cold. It's usually my first swim of the year, or at least of the spring summer. And there's always that moment when I'm standing on the shore, looking at the waves, my toes in the freezing cold Atlantic waters, and the thought occurs to me, you know what, maybe this year I don't need to swim. Maybe I'll just watch the water. It's freezing cold. And it makes me wonder how many times we have stood on the side of oceans and lakes and swimming pools, looking at the water, wishing that we had swum, but not taking the dive in. Maybe that's a metaphor for so much of our life. How much have we watched and looked from the outside, just waiting to take that plunge, and then turning around and walking off without getting wet? I'm sure that many of you have been have seen the documentary My Octopus Teacher that's been showing on Netflix. It's magnificent. If you haven't done so, I highly recommend it. And I knew it was going to be good because a couple of years ago when I did a freediving course, Jill and Dunny bought me a beautiful book that was written by Craig Foster. It's a coffee table book with beautiful photographs of his daily swimming in the Atlantic Ocean in the freezing cold every day, no matter the weather, no matter the conditions. He goes into that water, he dives every day. And the documentary so beautifully evokes the magnificence of the reward that he gets for taking the plunge into those waters. So I want to wish for all of us, before this Yom Kippur closes, that there should not be a sense of regret, that there should not be a sense of something that wasn't said or done as the gates begin to close. A few years ago, I read a book by a nurse, a palliative nurse in Australia called Bronnie Ware. And what she did over her career of many years dealing with patients in the final stages of their lives, usually she would step in the last couple of months, the last 3 to 12 weeks of their lives, caring for them as they and their family tried to make their last days as comfortable as possible. And over the course of time that she spent with her patients, she began to note that there were trends in the ways that the people that she was caring for, that were dying, spoke about and reflected upon their lives. So she compiled a list of the top 5 regrets that people in hospice care or passing away at home express on their deathbed. And I'll say right now that nowhere on that list of top 5 is I wish I had done bungee jumping. But here is that list. And I bring it to you not because I think that there is anything morbid or morose about looking at this list and turning it to ourselves, because that is really what Yom Kippur is about. Yom Kippur presents us an opportunity to rehearse our death, not in a dying way, but in a living way, in a way that gives us the power and strength to live our lives more fully, more powerfully, because we have confronted our death over this day. So here is her top 5. Number 1, I wish I'd had the courage to live a life true to myself, not the life others expected of me. Ware says that this is the most common regret of all. On the cusp of death, people see their lives with a kind of clarity that generally otherwise eluded them. And what do they see? Unfulfilled dreams, unnecessary sacrifices, time wasted as we undermine ourselves trying to please others. Number 1, I wish I'd had the courage to live a life true to myself, not the life others expected of me. Number 2, I wish I hadn't worked so hard. Just because it's so obvious doesn't mean it's not worth saying. Many of Ware's patients spoke about work as a treadmill that they just couldn't step off. Number 2, I wish I hadn't worked so hard. Number 3, I wish I'd had the courage to express my feelings. Dying people speak of having lived in fear, of working to suppress their instincts and feelings in order to appease others and not to stir the pot. As a result, says Ware, they settled for a mediocre existence and never became who they were truly capable of becoming. Number 3, I wish I'd had the courage to express my feelings. Number 4, I wish I'd stayed in touch with loved ones. Even with Zoom and Facebook, on their deathbed, people talk about the one who got away and the ones who got away, the relationships that we devoted heart and soul to over many years and faded into obscurity when life just got busy. As Ware says, everyone misses their friends when they are dying. Number 4, I wish I'd stayed in touch with loved ones. Number 5, I wish that I'd let myself be happier. This is all about being stuck in a broken relationship, stuck in a destructive pattern, imprisoned by our habits that ought to have been left behind years ago, stuck in a script and suppressing for a lifetime our real longings. After years of working with the dying, Ware's research indicates that without some dramatic intervention, most of us will die with regret, personal, relational, and spiritual. This sounds grim, but to me it sounds like a challenge. If we post these 5 on our fridge and we turn them around to ourselves and say, where am I stuck? Yom Kippur gives us the opportunity to turn the reflective mirror, the spiritual spotlight on our life, so that we don't have to die with regret, so that we can live the life that we want for ourselves and those that we love. That is the beauty of Yom Kippur. We rehearse our own dying and then we live, so we can take that consciousness with us and no regrets. So now, as these gates are closing and the year of 55781 opens to us, At the end of these awesome days, these Yamim Noraim, I want to pose those 5 to us as a personal challenge this Yom Kippur, that we should not live with any one of these regrets. I'm going to turn them into affirmations, and I give them to you now as affirmations for this Yom Kippur and for the days forward. Please accept them and do the work that is necessary to make them ring true for each of us. Number 1, I have the courage to live a life true to myself, not the life that others expect of me. Number 2, I love my work. I have the wisdom to know when I have worked enough and when I need to play. Number 3, I have the courage to express my feelings. Number 4, I am making time to stay in touch with the people that I love and care for. And number 5, I give myself permission to be happy. I wish us all, as this Yom Kippur closes, a year ahead of no regrets, affirming the power that we have to bring the change that we want to our lives. As Ondi and my great friend Elat Aviram says, and it's the title of her book, which I recommend to everybody, if I loved myself, what would I do now? Chatima Tova, a good seal to everybody.